going on, everybody? This is Abdullah Konte and Skylar Nelson with another episode of Win Sports, here to discuss the Combine Week. And we got to hear Adam Peters and Dan Quinn speak today. So we kind of wanted to jump on here and discuss what they had to say overall. We heard them speak. Not a lot of subject matter, I feel like, kind of things that we kind of thought would come, but, maybe a little surprises here and there. But Skylar, how are you doing overall? And kind of what did you think about what you heard today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Not too bad.
But yeah, honestly, obviously, like these press conferences matter to a certain extent. I mean, we did hear, some rumblings, just about, where their mindsets are at. I mean, it wasn't really a lot that we can take from it. I mean, it was something, because it is Combine Week, and I do feel like at a certain point you are going to have to answer questions about what you're looking for, what are you expecting, free agency, trade deadlines. It's a lot that kind of goes into all of that. But, we did hear some rumblings about, just certain things. We've been seeing a lot of different things on social media. Um, Dan Quinn really didn't say too much. I kind of felt like that was going to be what it was. But, Adam Peters, this was really like his first time in a minute really just talking about, kind of the situations that we've seen, whether that's with Lermy or Marshawn or, the draft and just, where they're at or the new hirings. This is the first time that he's really commented on certain things. So, that was good to hear from him as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I didn't, we listened to both of them. I didn't get anything, too crazy from either, you know, press conference. I felt like there's little things here or there that we can overanalyze overall,
Hmm.
but I mean, there were a few things I wrote down that I felt like we should discuss, and I think the first one was
Yeah.
Laramie Tunsil. Like, look, he is he is the Terry McLaurin of last year, right? I mean,
Hmm.
considering it's like, a guy that has played well, top player on the team that needs to get paid, wants an extension, all of that.
Yeah.
And, they say they're very, it was kind of the same vibe that we got from, AP about, Terry last year, that they really are motivated to get this signed. But like, honestly, I just want to see it happen. I hope that there's lessons learned from last year, that they can, supersede this year. I think this one's an easier signing because, I think there was a little bit more discussion on where Terry falls within top 10 receivers, where I think that with Laramie Tunsil's case, like, he is pretty much a top 5 left tackle. So it might be a little easier of a discussion to have. But are you optimistic that they're going to get him signed like relatively quickly? Because they say they want to do it fast, but that's
Hmm.
what they kind of said last year. And it, went all the way until, right before the season started. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, honestly, re-signing Lermy as fast as possible would be a great deal to do. I mean,
Hmm.
Lermy played pretty well last year, and definitely something that they put emphasis on last year was protecting Jaden. So,
Hmm.
for me, it's like if you want to sign him, negotiating, I feel like as much as you want to keep an eye on free agency, I do honestly believe that, Lermy Tunsil is a guy that you want to bring back next year, and that should be a priority.
Hmm.
I hope that they've learned their lesson because this is kind of like a Terry situation. We heard all last year that they wanted to get it done with Terry, although there were a lot of different things and factors that went into Terry signing outside of Lermy, which makes it a little less complicated. Um, I do believe that Adam Peters is a guy. I mean, he does uphold his word. Is he the fastest person to sign players? No. That's just within his history of signings. We saw it with Debo. We saw it with Terry. We've seen it even with Marshawn. So, it's, I do believe that it will take some time. I mean, if he signs them fast, great. But at the same time, for me, that's definitely a priority, especially as a player that not only did a great job last year, but is also guiding, the rest of your O line, guys that you drafted last year, like Josh Connerly Jr., and, just keeping kind of anchoring the line. I think that's something that they need to make a priority, especially since, too, he is a player that is being looked at.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a no brainer. They spent a lot of draft capital on him, so the fact of the
Hmm.
matter is like it would be kind of crazy to let him go, or like to not. They made that trade for him to be a long, standing piece of this O-line. I think
Yeah.
he proved that he was a great trade last year. I think everybody was happy about the way that he played. I think that this O-line, definitely starts with him. Like, he is that anchor, like you said, and so it'd be
Hmm.
smart for them to just get this done. You know what I mean? There you can argue that Terry wanted too much or AP was being cheap. I don't know about last year, but
Hmm.
it went on way too long, and you saw what happened with the flow of the team and the flow of that offense, and it could have been
Yeah.
different if they changed it up. So, they also brought Wiley back. I forgot that was something that we
Yeah.
should not even necessarily talk about. It's just something to mention. I know some people were upset or kind of like, oh, Wiley's coming back. Honestly, I think that was a great signing. They need the depth. He is more of that swing tackle, swing guard, and you heard AP talking about him in
Yeah.
particular about how he's somebody who's so willing and able to do a lot of different things. So that's a good thing. I just think overall the O-line is in a good spot. But let's keep everybody happy. Let's keep the train rolling on that. They lost all the momentum they built with Terry and Jaden, in the year of 24, got all lost before the year of 25. So the momentum they've had with the O-line for this past year, even though the season wasn't great, the O-line actually played pretty well. Let's keep that going, what I mean, by signing him, getting them ready to go, getting them
Yeah.
acclimated out there. Um,
Yeah.
so I wanted to talk about the next person that they did mention was Marshawn. It's
Yeah.
been kind of interesting because, we've heard some people talk about injury settlement. That's maybe the reason why. But AP had a great opportunity to say that, like, if they were going to cut him, he didn't. He said that he's still part of the team. They're still figuring it out. Is that just talking? Is that just, is there any possibility that he could stay on this team next year? Your thoughts? You just feel like he was just trying to be nice?
To be honest with you, the Commanders are very loyal, and I love that. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I hope that this is just talk. Not, I love Marshawn.
Hmm.
I really do. So let's get that clear. I
Hmm.
love Marshawn. I think, his career has spoken for itself, but I do feel like the injuries have caught up to him at a certain point.
Yeah.
It's not the same
Age,
player that
injuries.
we
Yeah.
saw. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's not the same player that we've seen all this time up until now, right? So for me, I do feel like it was a risk taking him in the middle of the season. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt because I'm like, he came in the middle of the season. He hasn't had time to gel. It's
Hmm.
it's so much happening. All eyes were on the Commanders. That's a lot of pressure, especially with the type of season that they had in 2024. So we got
Hmm.
to keep all of that in mind. He was supposed to come back this year. He didn't play preseason, although I thought he should have had a little stint, just a little something. And everybody was like, nah, he's a veteran. He'll be
Yeah, they,
okay.
they they made a mistake with the preseason thing. No one played. Like, honestly, like
Yeah.
none of these guys played, which was just not ideal. But go ahead.
Yeah. So that was another thing. Everybody was saying, he's a veteran. And I'm
Hmm.
like, just because he's a veteran doesn't mean, that means nothing. To me,
Hmm.
it means nothing. But,
Yeah.
I digress. But, anyways, so then they brought him back. He got injured again. This time it was a season ending injury, even after the fact that I'm like thinking of timeline here, even after the fact that, the secondary wasn't playing well.
Hmm.
And, those kind of made questions of like, although some fans were giving the benefit of the doubt, some fans were really coming for him. And I think for me right now, right at once I think you can even speak on this too. Once we saw that injury, we were like, the season's done for him. Like,
Yeah,
we
or
didn't
not
even
even
think he
just a
was coming
season.
back.
Yeah, not even just a season. I mean, it was more of we thought his career in Washington was done.
Yeah.
It just didn't work out. And with the $18 million cap hit, the fact of the matter is like they have no cap, or excuse me, they have a zero cap hit by letting him go, and they gain
Hmm.
$18 million in cap space if they let him go. The smart decision is just letting him go. Now, like the
Yeah.
only reason why for me, there's a little part of me that thinks that maybe they want to try to restructure to keep him. It's because maybe they don't love the cornerback market, or maybe
Hmm.
it's just like maybe, and trust me, this is like a very, very small percentage chance that they could do this. But maybe it's because AP spent a lot of draft capital on him. Maybe he really
He
believes in
did.
him, and maybe he feels like he doesn't want to be wrong. So he's like, hey, let's try to restructure and keep him for another year because it's a whole different defense, right? Maybe they feel like he could play better in this defense. I don't think they should keep him. You know me, I told you this before.
Yeah.
He was one of my favorite players. I was so excited for him to be here. It just didn't work out, and like business wise, they should let him go. But it is a little odd that they haven't made that decision yet. And everywhere I've heard, it's like it is kind of like everybody's kind of waiting for like, is that happening or not? Especially with the off the field problems. He got, I think, he got arrested for the possession
Yeah,
of
he
a
did.
firearm as well. Like these are another reason for him not to be here. But like I don't know. I don't know what the holdup is. Like you would think it'd be automatic. We're starting to hear rumblings of the people. Kirk Cousins earlier today, Atlanta had said that they're going to release him when the season
Yeah.
starts. So like other teams are saying it. Why is it that they're not? Is it just because they want to be, they just want to wait till the time is official to do it, or is it because they're actually thinking about something?
Well,
I don't know.
I also think too, because even after just hearing Dan Quinn speak, when we heard for the first time from David Blau and Durante, the players' mindsets and their personal lives do come first. So I
Hmm.
guess whatever is going on in Marshawn's life, I think that's primarily what's kind of holding them back from either telling him that he's going to be released or letting him handle his business first.
Okay, but
Whatever the case may be.
I would argue it's like if you know you're gonna break up with somebody and you just holding on to them, like, yo, I'm gonna break up with them in like 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, just break up with them
Yeah,
now.
like
Let them go.
I'm gonna be
Like,
honest. I'm
that's
gonna be
my thing.
honest. Once the season ended, if I was AP, I'd be like, I'm sorry,
Well,
Marshawn.
I mean, and
It's over.
maybe they don't want to have that conversation so early because they do want him to rehab
Yeah.
and see where he's at or whatever. Maybe he
Yeah.
has a different mindset. I don't know, but ultimately, at this point, they should probably know. Like, I understand maybe not at the beginning or at the end of last season, but now you're like a couple weeks away from the beginning of the new year or
But what's
the
even
beginning of free
worse?
agency. It's like just make up your mind. If you don't want him anymore, it's an easy cut. Like this is not even a
Yeah.
weird kind of like, oh, you might lose some money. You're not going to lose any money. So like cut him or don't. So it's like, yeah, if you know you want to cut him, break up with him. You know what I'm saying? Like break up
Yeah.
with him if that's the case.
But even then, too, like, he's not going to play in the beginning of next season, even if he were to stay.
No,
So
that's
it's
not
like,
true. That's not necessarily true.
I
Because like I
mean,
think that he could rehab to be. He might not be 100% himself. Like
but this
but
is
he
the
could play.
problem.
Yeah.
But this is the problem. He came in not being
No,
100%.
the
At this
injuries.
point,
Yeah, the injuries is the problem. Like he's not been able to be healthy to be himself 100%. And even if he is
yeah.
100%, we don't know. Like last year at the beginning of the year, he was okay. Like he wasn't like amazing. He was okay. Like his best
Yeah.
game was probably Kansas City.
Hmm.
Halfway through the year when DQ started taking over the reins, I felt like he played his best two games at Kansas City and Seattle until he got hurt. But
Yeah.
outside of that, like, and maybe that's what they're thinking, like, oh, we just need to switch up the defense. I don't know what's going on. It just is kind of weird that they haven't said yes or no with
Yeah,
him
no,
yet. Like, you
it
just think,
is.
but
But
yeah,
one thing we have to remember about Washington is they're very loyal. And
no.
that's what I'm saying. Like, remember last season in the middle, I was like, DQ was too nice
Oh yeah, no,
because
that's
it
DQ's
was just
probably
too much.
his biggest issue. Yeah.
But I do feel like at some point, though, Adam Peters was kind of just chatting a little bit because it was kind of a situation where it's like, one, you don't want any major headlines of like
No, he didn't
what
want
I
to tell.
said.
He didn't say anything. Like, I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
he kind of ducked and dodged conversation. Like, let's jump into this Ayuk thing really quickly, and
Yeah.
I'll just say about the Brandon Ayuk thing. The fact of the matter is that they gave him an opportunity to talk about it, but he can't actually do that because Ayuk is still on another team, and that's tampering, I believe. You can't talk about another player on a different team, so he couldn't really talk about Ayuk. But he kind of just basically said he likes Ayuk, gave people reason to believe that he maybe would be interested in Ayuk if he did become available, because he talked about second chances because the lady did ask him about second chances. So that's like the only thing that I felt like was maybe
Hmm.
like a headline that you could talk about was that is Ayuk a potential here? Is he open minded about Ayuk? I think he probably would have had a more harsh like, hey, like that's a player that is not on our team. I'm not going to talk about him. Like that's probably what
Yeah.
I think he would have said if there was no interest. I believe he showed interest in that conversation. If Ayuk became available, he would be considering him here. But you're right. He didn't say a whole lot of anything. Like there was a lot of just, kind of giving us the basic answers. There was a few questions. Like I think there was like three questions on Wiley. I don't know. There wasn't a lot of there was nothing that you sat there. I was really excited to hear him speak, and I left there being like, we didn't get anything that was really worthy of discussing. I think outside of that, some of the things that we got that was worthy of discussing is probably things that happened on Twitter with Bobby Wagner and both Zach Ertz, you know, making it clear that they have intentions
Mm-hmm.
to come back next season. Now, what does this team do? They're both guys that probably didn't have their best year. Zach Ertz coming off a major injury, Bobby Wagner coming off maybe. I don't want to say it was like a horrible year for him because it was not. It was actually a pretty decent year. It was just for his standards, it wasn't great, especially for the year that he had prior to that. So, what do you think? Do you think that they come back? Do you think that these teams are open minded? It sounds like both DQ and AP, you know, are kind of knowing that they're around, but like, are they open minded? Are they moving in that direction or not? Like, what's your take on that?
I'll start off with Zach because that was like the
Mm-hmm.
first thing that was on my mind. Um, I love Zach Ertz. I think, he's a tight end that has done tremendous things with Washington in such a short period of time. My only issue is with Zach Ertz, it's a little bit different with between Bobby and Zach. I feel like Zach, with the injury and everything, of course, it was very heartbreaking to see. And that was another player where I was like, in my mind, that's a huge question mark of is he going to come back? And
Mm-hmm.
for Zach, it's hard because to me personally, although we've seen John Bates step up, we've seen some stints from Ben Sinnett, we've seen a little bit of Colson Yankoff, there's still a lot of uncertainty with the tight end room that is kind of concerning. Um, for me at least. Because as somebody who, if you're talking about taking weight off of the receivers and the run game, when that time does count, then you look at the tight end room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like if you take Zach Ertz out of the equation, right? You either have two options. You either try to bank in the free agency. I highly doubt that they would draft. Well, I don't doubt it. Don't put nothing past the team. Draft a tight end. Or you would just re-sign him and deal with the room that you have, which I don't think that they're going to do. Um, the tight end room is definitely a conversation that they've had, like, that has been brewing in the NFL space for a minute for this team. I wouldn't be surprised if Zach comes back, and I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't come back, or if he comes back and they still manage to bring somebody in free agency. I wouldn't be
Well,
surprised.
I think the problem with the free agency thing, like him coming back and them getting somebody in free agency, is that it would just be a lot of money to spend
Yeah,
on. Like he would have to come cheap. Like that's the only way. And I would say that like I'm not. I think he's more tied to Cliff Kingsbury, which is why I don't think he ends up coming back. I think he ends up going somewhere else and maybe to LA. I just don't think that it makes sense for I feel like I would have more of an argument to bring Bobby back than Zach because I
yeah,
feel like
most definitely.
Zach that injury was massive, and then also like the tight end market, like we did hear Kyle Pitts is probably gonna get franchise tagged, so he won't be available, but like Isaiah
Yeah,
Likely, Chigo
yeah,
Cuoco, like there's some other tight ends that might be available that I think that would be better for them to sign that are younger and somebody you can pair with Jaden for a few years. Because if Zach
absolutely.
comes back again, like I mean, this is probably his last year. Like I mean, he has to be near the end of the road. So, and then
Yeah,
yeah, when it comes to the draft, it's not a great tight end draft class. They could draft
it's not.
somebody. They don't have a lot of draft picks, and if it's not a great tight end draft class, they should focus those draft picks on other positions, mainly
Yeah,
defense. So,
most definitely.
but what I will say about Bobby, I think it's much more likely that Bobby gets signed back than Zach. My thing is still the same thing with Bobby. Like I feel like when it comes to you saying to sign somebody and sign Bobby back or sign Zach back, I feel like that's what they should do for Bobby if they are going to bring Bobby back. Is like, hey, sign a guy and sign Bobby back, or sign Bobby and draft somebody to kind of have Bobby coach them up, because I think Bobby still has
Yeah.
a little bit left in the tank, but I need somebody else to be playing third downs. I need somebody else to like start to take over some of his,
Yeah.
responsibilities. It's kind of like a retirement program for anybody. Like, you got a guy who's been working for you for a long time, but he's getting older. You want to bring some new talent in to be
Yeah.
coached up and basically a successor for that position. I think
Yeah.
that if Bobby was to come back to this team, there has to be somebody else that's going to be in line to take over, and especially on those third down, situations. And so, a guy like Sonny Styles, they've talked about drafting
Hmm.
him. If that was somebody that got paired to the Commanders from Mel Kiper's mock draft this morning, that would make sense. If they brought Bobby back and then drafted Sonny Styles, I'd be super excited about the potential of them working together. He could learn from a future Hall of Famer. But just having Bobby as like your solid plan, I think would be a fail for this defense. They
Yeah.
need to start moving younger and building for the future. So,
Yeah. And I've
yeah.
thought about that a lot,
Mm,
especially too, like for me, I always was saying too, and this wasn't necessarily against Bobby. I was like, the defense is, well, the up front, the D line is too old. I said there needs to be younger guys on the forefront. There needs to be a faster push towards the offenses. I was like, there were some stints where I was like, some things are just bad calls. But at the same time, it's just like, if you are going to bring a veteran back, I feel like Bobby would be a smart choice. I mean, to be honest, he's been guiding that room for a minute, and it's not like that he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's very humble. He understands and has been around the NFL long enough to understand how defenses move. And he's spoken for himself. He led the team in tackles. He was one of the guys that really, puts things into perspective for this team. Now, one thing I
yeah.
will say is, in terms of Zach, to be honest, I don't want them to bring Zach back, to be honest with you. Love Zach. I hope that his rehab is going well. I hope that his recovery is going well. But at the same time, you know, with the way that the tight end room is looking, it would be better for them to bank in the free agency and get a guy like we talked about, like Isaiah Likely, where you
Mhm.
can put that money towards him on the younger side, who has played pretty well on other teams and has faced competition that the Commanders are looking to beat in order to possibly get to the Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
I do think that that's really where they're going to be at. But on the
Yeah.
defensive side, I definitely feel like, I hope that Adam Peters is preparing for the draft to be defense based.
Yeah, no, to basically end that talk about Bobby and Zach, they need to go.
Hmm.
They need to get newer guys for both sides.
Yeah.
I like both players, and I
Yeah.
wish that they could come back in a role where they're passing things off. That would only be the only way I would feel like I would be happy with them being around, is if there were somehow player coaches kind of thing. But like, who has the money for player coaches? Like, they got to use that money towards real young players that are up and coming players. It's time to invest in the future and not bring.
Yeah.
They tried to change the culture in that first year, and I think they had a success in changing the culture. Last year, the injuries kind of hurt that, but the team still feels intact, where the guys are playing for each other and all of that. Get some
Hmm.
nice, younger, stronger players. The defense, like, I agree on the draft side. For me, most of the draft picks that I would be picking if I was AP would be on the defensive side of the ball. Which,
Yeah.
speaking of, he did mention, and this is probably the last thing I'll say about just everything that happened. Is that he did mention that he's not bothered by the length of arms, which, a lot of people love Ruben Bain down in Miami. I love Ruben Bain also. He would be a great addition here. I think you got to watch the tape. Forget about these measurements. I know they're going to be doing a lot of measurements and all these different
Yeah.
drills at the combine this week, but people need to remember to watch the tape. Football players are good football players. Sometimes their measurables don't even make sense of how good they are. But essentially, that's my take on it. It's glad to hear that he definitely can recognize that some guys are just good players. So ultimately, I mean, yeah, look, there wasn't a lot to dissect. This is why I think that we probably should end this video here. Like, at this point, it wasn't like I think I was really expecting a lot more, and I hope to see or hear more about the combine and the players and stuff. We're going to hear from a lot of these players that they're interested in Arvo Reese and Sonny Styles tomorrow.
Yeah.
A lot of different guys throughout the week, but it is a little disappointing that we didn't get any kind of really good quality information. But like you said, it's early. They're trying to make sure that they don't give these sound bites or these clickbaity type quotes.
Yeah.
They're basically just trying to make sure that they're keeping things close to the vest. That's always been AP style. So it's unfortunate we got a couple more months before the draft happens. So there's just going to be a lot of hearing about who's doing well, and they'll have the combine, and then essentially free agency will come soon though. So free agency is going to be really exciting. Any last remarks from you before I close this out?
Yeah, to be honest, and I still keep even having to remind myself, it's too early. It's too early. The draft is we got what, 1 or 2 months to go.
It's April, I think, end of April, April 27th or something like that. It's a long time
because
from now. Right.
Yeah, because we're not even. Although February is over with this
Well,
week.
what I will say that'll be exciting this week is that, look, last year the Debo trade happened during the combine week. These GMs are meeting with each other. There's rumblings. You'll be hearing more rumors and rumblings about things. I'll be tied to Twitter this week because of the fact that, one, I'm going to be watching these guys to see how they're doing, but then also just, what are people saying? What is happening? So, you never know. There may be some splash kind of thing that happens this week. I don't think the Commanders will trade or make any trades because they just don't have the capital for that. But another thing, they did mention Deron Payne today. DQ did, so it looks like they're probably going to be moving forward with him. For those who are considering if he's going to be a cut candidate or a trade candidate, it looks like he's just going to be a part of the squad next year. They have the money to keep him, but you never know. There might be another trade that happens or something else that happens that could be really exciting for the squad. So we'll obviously be thinking about that. Go ahead. You want to say something?
And plus, too, one of the things that we've seen, especially, too, even with Adam Peters, Adam Peters has been here for 2 full seasons now. Mm-hmm. It's we're going to be there could be possible trades from now all the way until the end of camp.
Yeah.
And it's it's just
he
it's
did
going to
trade
take
Jahan
time.
Dotson, it could be trading people away. He's made some trades that you're oh wow, I'm surprised he traded that guy, right? And to be honest, most of his trades have been good. If we really assess his trades, the Jahan Dotson trade was a good trade. B-Rob was a good trade. These are guys that went to a different team and just weren't doing anything. Who else? The Marshawn trade was not a good trade as of right now. But then, but even the Debo trade, I would say the Debo trade was pretty good.
I thought Debo was good, but that was also too for me. I kind of expected something like that to happen because it was kind of relationship based.
Yeah,
for me.
Well, yeah. I think everybody.
And I thought it wasn't bad.
Yeah, no. Everybody kind of had thoughts of he's tied to San Fran, so some of these San Fran guys, which is why the Ayuk thing is another reason why people are talking about that. So no, I would say most of his trades have been pretty good. There's really been one that's just not been good, and so we'll see. Ultimately, it's just we got some time. Free agency's coming quick though, so in a couple of weeks we're gonna hear about a lot more movement. We're hearing about franchise tag people already. So we'll keep obviously doing videos and keep you guys up to date. We appreciate we've had a lot of positivity with this channel in the last few weeks.
Yes.
A lot more people are, recognizing us, subscribing, following us on Twitter. We appreciate everything. We're going to keep going. If you have any comments or any thoughts on what we should do next, feel free to leave a comment down below.
Yes. And I'm going to be on the ground a little bit more because this is just my age group, guys. I'm 22 years old, okay? I am Instagram down, okay?
Yeah.
Catch me on Instagram, I'm on there. But sometimes when it comes to Twitter, I'm still learning, okay? Twitter is fast.
She's young.
Twitter's fast. It's a lot happening. And as much as I'm passionate about sports, I love Twitter. Sometimes Twitter can be a lot. So, when there's DMs or people are texting me or tagging me and stuff to look at stuff, I'm like, okay.
Nah, she'd just be ignoring y'all. She'd be ignoring y'all.
I don't it's really not a purposeful thing. But if you DM me or send me something on Instagram, trust and believe. Oh, I know. And it's like that's where I'm at the most. But with Twitter this week, I'm gonna be more grounded and
Yeah.
possibly getting more into the side of because not only that, but guys, I cover every sport.
Yeah,
I
we
cover
we
every
do
sport.
we talk a lot of just football here, but we do cover a lot of different
Yes,
things. So
yes,
we'll be making
Wizards.
sure to make more content on other things also, especially with the Wizards. DC United just started up again.
Yep.
Baseball's coming up, so we got a lot of things on the dock. But anyways, thank you guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Obviously, we'll keep it going. Please like, subscribe, comment, give us some love, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, peace.